Stand by. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Impacts.
What up, y'all? LocsNLoad Firearm Reviews here today. What up, guys? Welcome back. Today, guys, I'm gonna be talking about the Optic I've been rocking on my GPR. Not just my GPR, but also my 11.5 as well. And this Optic setup is, I call it, I think it's the bee's knees. For a budget Optic to do basically everything you needed to do within 500 yards, this Optic has done it so far. So basically I call this thing the ACOG at home. And what it is a primary arms 5X Prism scope piggybacked with a HoloSun 509T red dot. Alright, so like I said, ACOG at home. If you look on the website for an actual ACOG with an actual Trijicon RMR, you're spending over $1,000 very easy. Alright. So for the average shooter, we don't have that type of money, or we really don't want to spend that type of money on just an Optic, especially when the rifle doesn't even cost that much. And so a budget option that I thought would be a good option for us civilians out there who don't have a lot of money to spend, who actually work for our money, this right here, I think is where you guys should be looking at. So like I said, primary arms 5X Prism. So this is a Prism Optic that has an etched reticle in here. So it's not anything that runs on batteries or has to have any type of electronic device in here, like a red dot. What you see is what you get. So you just get a glass and an etched reticle with the ACSS reticle in there, which I absolutely love. So it does have a horseshoe on there, and also some windage holes and elevation holes. Everything to shoot out the distance. And so, like I was saying, the reticle is etched in here, so it's not gonna die, it's not gonna go away unless you somehow completely destroy the glass in here, which is pretty damn hard because these things are pretty damn robust. It's supposed to mimic ACOG, so it's definitely gonna be tough and durable, which is another reason why I went with this Optic. Down on top, it does have an illuminated reticle. If you do find yourself shooting at dusk, dawn, low light type settings, so it does have that ability to aid you in that regards. But besides that, what you see is what you get. There's no dials, there's no windage, elevation knobs to mess with, there's no parallax adjustment to mess with. You simply throw the Optic up into your eye at a target at distance. You move your aiming point to where you need to be, and then you send rounds downrange. So that type of simplicity, reliability, and also versatility, it's hard to beat that, especially at a price point where this thing comes in like $400 something, maybe a little less if you find it on sale on a different website. So you're basically getting 80-85% of an ACOG's clarity, ruggedness, durability, everything that the ACOG has at a fraction of a cost. And it's really hard to beat that. And also to just give it more features, it does come from the factory with a Picatinny rail on top. That way you can mount any type of piggyback optic on here, which I highly recommend, because this being a set 5X magnification, trying to use this optic for CQB purposes is gonna be extremely hard to do with an optic that's zoomed in that far. So you're definitely gonna wanna combine this 5X with some type of red dot sighting system. One, not only to engage targets like within 50 meters for close quarter shooting, but two, if you do shoot on a night vision, now you have a way to passively aim your rifle and engage targets under night vision without using your IR laser and giving away your position. So, but you are gonna wanna put a red dot on this optic just so you can cover both bases, targets at distance and targets up close. Which again, with this price point, we'll say 400 for the optic, and like 3 something, 250, 300 something for the red dot. So you're looking at $700-800. You get a 5X Prism optic with a red dot versus the 12, 13, 14, 1500 plus dollars you would have spent on an ACOG. All right, so quick questions. Locs, why would you opt for a 5X Prism over, let's just say, a regular red dot and a magnifier? Well, when you're shooting out the distance, one, being able to positively ID a target is extremely important. So you're gonna want that type of glass clarity that you're gonna be able to see that at distance. Now, magnifiers are nice, but sometimes they're lacking in the clarity of a target at that distance. You might kind of see some type of blurriness, but it's really hard to ID whether that's friend or foe, or if that's the target you need to engage. Having this 5X and this clear glass, I can easily see out to that distance and positively ID a target over a red dot magnifier. Next, if you ask Eric, he was actually running a red dot, or not red dot, but an EOTech and a magnifier, 3X magnifier on his 13.9 before he moved to an LPVO. And one of the problems he was having when he was trying to engage targets out to 400, 500, 600 yards was that they didn't have any of like the bullet drop compensators on there. So he didn't have a way to accurately gauge his holds. He's pretty much just guessing, because again, you just get a red dot or just the EOTech circle, donut of death, but yet you don't get any markings that show you, for your 4, your 5, your 600 yard shots. So he was really missing a lot of rounds, trying to shoot out that distance and not having that. And here I am with my 5X. I put the 6 dot with the 6 line on the 600 yard target right at the belly button, pull the trigger, and I'm hitting it. And so that ease of use out the distance is something that a red dot magnifier, EOTech magnifier is just not going to give you. And so that's one of the reasons, that's pretty like one of the main reasons I went with this over just a red dot EOTech magnifier. And then 2, I didn't like, when you're using that red dot, cool, right? You just got the red dot, but now you have this giant magnifier right here in front of your face, right? That does obscure your vision. And 2, it does add weight to your rifle that you're not really using. And so back in the day, when I had my 11.5 running, I was actually using a red dot magnifier. But I found a lot of the times I just was not using the magnifier like that. And so I really took it off. And then when I did try to shoot out the distance, anything over 300 yards, it was really a crapshoot. You were just kind of guessing at that point. And so I didn't like wasting rounds. I wanted to know what my holds and my bullet drop should be at that distance. Also with the windage on there, because again, you're shooting out the distance with a 5.56. The wind's gonna really play an effect on your round at that distance. And so you're definitely gonna want to have some type of calculations for that. All right, answer the next question. All right, Loc, so you didn't want a red dot magnifier. Why not an LPVO or like a 2.5 to 10 optic? All right, cool. One, those optics are a lot bigger, longer, and heavier. If you look at an LPVO, like Eric's LPVO, this thing is this long, right? That takes up a lot of space in your rifle, and it also weighs a little bit more. 2, with LPVOs, LPVOs are any type of really high magnification optic. Like if you take my DMR, it's a 5.56 16-inch barrel with a 4:16 optic. Now, when I'm running and gunning with that thing, I'm finding myself having to touch that optic a lot more than I would if I was running, say, this. And the reason why you have to do that is because once you're transitioning from this distance to that distance, you're gonna have to keep in mind what your setting is at on those turrets. So if you let's say you might have engaged a target out to 500 yards, right? From that distance, you can easily do that with a 16-inch gun. Then you run up 200 yards. Now you got 300 yards. Now you gotta adjust your parallax. Maybe you have to adjust your magnification so you're not so zoomed in. Maybe you can zoom out. right? And you move closer. Now, that's another thing you gotta touch on your rifle, adjust the parallax, adjust the magnification. You're finding yourself having to touch that optic a lot more than versus just something like this, a set 5X that has no parallax, no magnification adjustments. You just throw it at your eye, see what you see, and you fire rounds. For a fighting optic, that's what you want. Now, if you're looking for that higher level of precision shooting, then yes, you want to go with those, LPVOs. Well, I don't really prefer LPVOs because the lack of parallax adjustment. But you go with a higher magnification optic like that if you want that higher level of precision shooting. But if you're looking for a fighting rifle optic, you're not going to want something that's very complicated, has a lot of moving parts, not as durable, because again, you might be able to drop the optic a few times, but after a while, drop that optic, bang that optic, all those moving parts, something's going to give. So another reason I went with this ACOG at home, because the less moving parts, the better. So that's the answer to those two questions, why I didn't go with the red dot magnifier and why I didn't go with LPVO or like a 2.5 to 10. I want it as simple of an optic as possible, but that gave me magnification, that was going to be rugged, durable, and reliable, and didn't run on like a lot of batteries. I don't, because again, I'm thinking of a sustainment. If I was in the woods, I had no supply chain, how am I going to be able to sustain my rifle, my gear, and myself and my team? And so less batteries, the better. If I can just have a set reticle and a set magnification, I'm good. Now with the red dot on here, again, what I did, so here's full disclosure. Red Arrow Concepts, he contacted me on Instagram, and he made this mount right here that this 509T is sitting on. Originally, it was the primary arms Picatinny rail that you see on the website and all the pictures. And so with this 509T, I had to go get a Picatinny adapter plate. So it would sit at this height, but a little bit higher with that adapter plate. So when I made the post on Instagram, he saw it and he said, I can make you something better. And so he really did. He made this mount for me that accepted the footprint for a 509T, because he knew I had it at the time. And so I was able to mount it on here in the same position where the Picatinny rail was, but it makes the optic sit a little lower than the original way I had it. So I do want to give a shout out to Red Arrow Concepts and let you guys know that, if you do go with the Picatinny version, your optic may sit a little higher if it doesn't come naturally with a Picatinny mount. All right. So, all right, Locs, you told us a lot of good things about this optic. What are some of the negatives? All right. One of the, few negatives I can find. There are some because nothing's perfect. You can look at the size of the optic. It's bigger, obviously, than like a red dot. No, unless you're running like an Aimpoint Pro, it's somewhat in the same size as an Aimpoint Pro. Might be a little bit heavier than an Aimpoint Pro, but again, your boy goes to the gym, so it doesn't bother me at all. And then I think the biggest negative of this optic is that if you are not really dedicating this for, just let's say hunting, but even if you were hunting, I still would say you kind of need a piggyback red dot sighting system on here. Because again, trying to shoot anything up close with that 5x magnification, it's really hard to do. It's not impossible, but trying to find a target real close up, it really just fills the whole optic and you really can't see too much of what's going on around it. You don't know if I'm dead center on the target or if I'm just super zoomed in here, super zoomed in on his shoulder. And so that's the real downside of this optic, is that if you're gonna use this on your AR-15 rifle as like life and liberty type rifle, something you're really gonna put your life on, you're gonna want to put a red dot on here to help you out for those close-in shots, because that 5x is gonna be hard or impossible for home defense shooting. So that's probably one of the biggest caveats with the Optic is that it low-key requires a secondary sighting system. So when you're buying this Optic, keep in mind, all right, I'm gonna have to buy a red dot to go with it. So, you know, kind of figure out both of those. The HoloSun 509T that I have on here is more of a closed emitter. So that's why I honestly went with it, because, you know, I didn't want dirt and grime getting into that the housing system of my Optic. Let's say if I was using like got all these numbers. Let's say a Trijicon RMR, how it's kind of just like an L. Dirt and grime can fill on here and it can match the window. People have done a lot of testing on it. Water will also obscure your red dot on a open emitter. So that's why a lot of people are moving to closed emitters, whether it be on the rifle or whether it be on the handgun, because it kind of does away with that issue. So that's, again, biggest downside. You kind of need a red dot on there. But besides that, I'm loving this Optic. I'm loving everything about it. This whole setup right here with this Optic, this barrel 13.9 from Ballistic Advantage, YHM suppressor, repeated hits out to 600 yards. And so, again, like I said, I want a rifle that was accurate up to 300. This gave me 600. And so I can't complain. I'm loving this whole setup. That's why I'm doing this video right now. I mean, granted, if it's a shitty setup, I'll probably still do a video and tell you don't do this. But yes, if you're looking for kind of a do-all Optic, or you're one of those people like former military and you had ACOG but you don't have ACOG money, this is a great option to go with. The ACOG at home, Primary Arms 5X Prism with HoloSun 509T. Okay, another question I just thought of. Locs, why'd you go with this Optic versus the Primary Arms Micro Prism? Right, so if you guys don't know, Primary Arms came out basically with this Optic in a 5X, but instead of this size, it's like this size. So it's about, you cut off about a third of the Optic, and it's that size, but still with the same 5X capability. And it has a different reticle, the Aurora reticle. So basically think of the ACSS without the horseshoe. That's basically what it is. Don't get me wrong, I love the reticle, but one of the main reasons I went with this Optic is that when you get it from the factory, it comes just like this, all one piece, all put together from the factory. The problem with the Micro Prism that I didn't like was that you would have to buy the prism itself, then buy a secondary mount it to the Optic, then buy a red dot, then put the red dot on top of that secondary mount. And so you see there's a lot more moving pieces in that versus just this. All right, the only thing I changed out was that Picatinny rail. But once you put the screws in, you torque it down, it's not going nowhere, and that's literally the only moving piece. Versus, take the Optic, now I gotta take this mount, hopefully these screws are good, then take another red dot, put it in here, hopefully these screws are good. It's just a lot more potential for things to go wrong, Murphy's Law, versus this Optic. And then I didn't see much difference, whether it be glass clarity, performance, reliability, all that, between this and the other Optic. And this was, I think, a little bit cheaper than the new one. And then it would have been cheaper because I wouldn't have to buy the Optic, the mount, and then the red dot. And the thing about the mount for that red dot is that it already has like a footprint cut. So the Optic that you're gonna get has to match that mount, right? Or mount has to match that footprint. Versus this with the Picatinny rail, basically any Optic that has a Picatinny rail will mount on here. And so it just seemed a little bit more versatile to me and for my needs. That's why I went with this version versus the Micro Prism. I know Eric's gonna go with the Micro Prism because that Optic suits his needs. But I'm fine with this. And so, yeah, this is my video, guys. If you're in the market looking for basically an Optic that you use to engage. It's got markings out here for 800, so it's saying you can shoot out to 800 yards. Now your platform is dependent, right? Don't put it on your little, 7.5 inch AR-15 and think you're going out to 800 yards accurately, right? So, but if the rifle itself is capable of being accurate out to 500 yards, then the optic will give you, some type of accurate baseline when you're shooting out that distance. But definitely out to 600 yards, I'm on it. I'm on point. I love it. And that's using 55 grain ball ammo. None of that 77 grain or any of that 62 grain green tip. None of that. Just 55 grain Winchester white box from Academy. And I'm getting consistent hits out to 600, and I'm loving it. So this is my optic right here. ACOG at home. And so far, like I said, I'm loving it. And if you guys are in the market or looking to build an optic, I recommend this right here. So hopefully you guys liked the video. If you did, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you haven't, majority of the people who watch my videos are not subscribed to the channel, but y'all keep coming back and checking in for the videos, or you stumble upon it. So I would love for you guys to join the Wagunda Nation and become a permanent resident of our nation, right? And on top of that, guys, if you do want to support the channel, one of the biggest ways to do that, you can either go to Patreon and become a member and donate to the channel. That helps us with production, cameras, lighting, shooting guns, and doing all the stuff that you've seen me do for the past 6 years. You can go on the link, buy a t-shirt. That also helps support the channel. Or you can go down to the link in the description and book a class with us. So if you want to learn how to shoot your gun, come see us and we can help you out. If you're looking to buy a gun, we can also help you out with that as well. So guys, I hope you liked the video. Hopefully you learned something. As always, stay educated, stay dangerous. LocsNLoad out.